it up.
We got our bananas. We got our mayonnaise. But do we have our future franchise quarterback in one Will Levis? Let's talk about it now. Sammy, start me up.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. Talking Titans.
Ladies and gentlemen, 94 yards. Touchdown, Titans. He is the baddest man in the NFL, and he just took her to the house.
The sickest Tennessee Titans podcast.
Sick!
It's gonna be sick.
We are live, gentlemen. Jarett and I are going to hold it down. Sal went into cardiac arrest. He was so excited that the Titans got Will Levis. He could not make it tonight. Sometimes it feels like getting this kid on the podcast is like trying to get in touch with the president of the United States. Nonetheless, Jarett and I are here to hold it down tonight to talk quickly about what the Titans have done on day 2 of the NFL draft. We made a move to 33 to go get what could be our future franchise quarterback, Will Levis. Now, we'll see, how Jarett feels about it. We'll see how, it works out going forward. I'll tell you, for one, this kid's got a lot to prove when it comes to proving himself to me. I think he is got a lot of room to grow. I think he's a little immature. I think he's a little inaccurate. I watched some film today of him running into his offensive lineman. I am not sold. Jarett, how do we feel?
You watched a little Dan Orlovsky on ESPN, right?
A little bit.
He tossed him under the bus real quick.
So
listen, you had a little fun last night after the first round pick, and you were saying we were sponsored, quote unquote, by Rolling Rock. So tonight I want to bring into tonight's podcast. We are not sponsored by Jack Daniels, but Jarett is tonight.
Not sponsored by them yet. Not yet.
Sponsored by them yet, but Jarett is sponsored by him tonight. So I'm feeling pretty good after the Will Levis pick, because everybody on Twitter knows that we were not all in on Will Levis. Sal was, and he can talk about it next week on next week's podcast, or possibly tomorrow's podcast after the draft recap. But listen, Will Levis is a huge reach. I don't care about what anybody says on Twitter or anything about the fan base, that it's great value. He has a big arm. He's very physical. He's strong in the pocket. That's what everybody says. He has great mobility. His NFL comp is Josh Allen. This guy better not be Josh Allen. He better be better than Josh Allen if we have to support him for the next 4 to 5 years. Okay, in my opinion, because I did not want him. Multiple people on my Twitter feed did not want him. Everybody agreed with me that we did not want this guy. We have to go for value here, which is wide receiver and tight end. We did not do that. We stuck with Will Levis. So I mentioned his pros. Now about his cons. I've read and I've watched multiple videos on Will Levis since we made this pick. My wife hates me right now. I sent my kids to bed early for doing this, because I needed to see what everybody sees in Will Levis besides me. Okay. And his cons in the draft, where he has frozen eyes, which he locks onto receivers very quickly.
Said that before.
Yep. Consistent field vision, and he anticipates the throw late on the trigger and gives defenders more time to get to the wide receiver. Why do we take risks every year on the quarterback? Why not wait until next year after Ryan Tannehill's contract expires to not go get your quarterback? It doesn't matter about not getting Caleb Williams. Fuck Caleb Williams. Come back and get in the draft and get May out of North Carolina. Go move up and get Jordan Travis out of Florida State. Why does it have to be this year? You couldn't go get a wide receiver with the 33rd pick in Mingo. You couldn't go move up into the draft and get Darnell Washington. You couldn't get Mayer like we've been talking about in this draft. This kid literally needs to be better than Josh Allen if he has the pros comps for me to be a huge fan of this. But we have Vin. I know me and you have zero not responsibility, but zero. What's the word?
Confidence
In this kid going forward, but we have no choice but to support this kid going forward because he's the quarterback of the future of the Tennessee Titans. So I mean, he had 2,800 yards in 2021 with 24 touchdowns and 13 interceptions with a 66% completion percentage. Last year, I know he was hindered by the toe injury that he had in college, which he still threw for 2,400 yards and 19 touchdowns and 10 interceptions. But still, the interceptions and turnovers are still up there for me. I mean, he's not a needle mover like we've been saying at the quarterback position. I mean, if we were taking a quarterback, I would take him in a third round, just like the Lions did with Hendon Hooker. I wouldn't go with Will Levis. Maybe Will Levis is going to piss on this podcast and say, hey, Jarett, Vin, you have no idea what the fuck you're talking about. Sal and everybody else that agrees that Will Levis is the future of this quarterback, by all means, whatever. But me, I'm all out on Will Levis.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're on the same page, you and I. Listen, I think the kid needs to mature a little bit. I think he was inaccurate in college. I've said it for a long time now that it seems like you said, he gets frozen eyes. He locks onto receivers. He telegraphs throws a little bit. Now, I've heard a lot of people say, including Orlovsky on ESPN, saying that he had a below average offensive line in college, had a below average receiving core in college. Listen, I understand that, and I can appreciate that. But at the end of the day, I mean, if you're going to move up to the 33rd pick, you want someone who clearly they feel good about him. And right. I hope it's for good reason, but I think he still has a lot to prove to us. And I think what a lot of people aren't talking about is this can cost Mike Vrabel his job if this doesn't work out. Because this is Mike Vrabel's guy. This is the quarterback that Mike Vrabel and Rand Carthon are hanging their hat on. So if you trade up 8 spots to basically almost get to the end of the first round, because it was the 33rd pick, and there was no 32nd pick this year because the 32nd pick got forfeited. So the 32nd pick was a second round pick. So let's just say basically you traded up to the end of the first round to go get this kid. So clearly you feel some type of way about him. And listen, you work for PSE&G and I sell lotion. So let's just hope that we don't know as much as they do because they work at, the highest level of professional football. That being said, though, I think it's hard to ignore what we've seen on tape, and that is that he can be inaccurate. He locks onto receivers. He gets happy feet. The footage of Orlovsky showing him today where he ran into the offensive lineman because he got excited, and instead of checking down to his running back or taking a completion for a few yards, he decided to try and run and ran right into his offensive lineman. Well, I got bad news, Will. Everyone in the NFL is bigger, stronger, and faster than everyone you played in college. It begs the question of what do we do with Tannehill now? Do we keep Tannehill? Do we cut him after June 1st to save the $27 million? Do we throw this kid into the fire? I don't know. I mean, one could argue that, listen, you traded up to get this kid in the beginning of the second round, basically the first pick of the second round. So maybe some people might say, yeah, let's throw him in there. But he's got a lot to prove. And listen, like you said, we have no choice but to support him now. I hope he is Josh Allen. To me, there's going to be between. He's going to be Josh Allen or he is going to be Sam Darnold. No in between. And I'm with you. I said it last night. I would wait for a quarterback. I would play it out with Tannehill this year and see where the chips fall, and then next year maybe go get your guy. But it's frustrating sometimes when it seems like a team is throwing shit against the wall, hoping that something sticks eventually. I mean, last year, you and I weren't huge on Willis. We know Sal was. That didn't work out. This year, hopefully Sal's right and history doesn't repeat itself because you and I are out on Levis. Sal likes him. And hopefully, he's right and we're wrong. But it's to the point where I'm going to believe it when I see it. It's not like you're a Bryce Young or you're a CJ Stroud where it's like, okay, there's a really, really good chance that you're going to succeed. To me, this kid is nothing more than a coin flip at the moment. I don't know. I guess we have no choice but to be on board right now. We'll see. I want to see what happens the rest of the draft. Hopefully we can give this kid some weapons. We could talk now maybe about our third round pick, who I'm a big fan of.
before we get into that, I'm sorry to cut you off because I
No,
hate doing that. My wife says, "Oh, you Jersey guys always cut people off." Blah 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 blah. I say, "Hey, the hell out of here!" Right?
You know what you married. You know what you married, Jen.
Exactly. So listen, before you even say anything like that, I believe that the Titans are still committed to Ryan Tannehill this year. Okay. You still are still married to Will Levis for another 4 years because you have 5 years on. No, not 5 years. You have 4 years on him. He's not a first round draft pick.
Really, he's got 3 years to show us what he can do.
So if he does not start, which I don't anticipate him starting this year, next year when we have the $106 million in cap space, Ryan Tannehill's out of the conversation, or possibly Ryan Tannehill may get the June 1st cut. And we save the $27 million and they go after somebody who I don't know. Twitter, if you guys can help us out, since we're live on Twitter and Facebook and YouTube, please, by all means, give us some insight on that. But next year's draft class, we have T. Higgins, Mike Evans, Marquise Brown, Calvin Ridley, which I don't think is real because the Jaguars signed him. I don't know about that. Michael Pittman, Darnell Mooney, and Donovan Peoples-Jones, and Curtis Samuel. Michael Thomas, get out of here. Those are the people. Those are the wide receivers that are available next year. So if T. Higgins does not sign this contract this year with the Bengals, which I don't know how he doesn't, you give him a blank check to come to Tennessee. I would give him $300 million to come here. I mean, let's get carried away, but we need a pass catcher so bad that we passed on so many people as I'm watching the draft right now, that Darnell Washington is still available, that we can't go 12 personnel, that Tim Kelly is so
keen on running,
keen for and famous for. How they haven't done that while the Bengals are on the clock. Let's see what the Bengals do right here. We got a veteran on the clock. This is going to probably take forever, so forget about that.
Jason McCourty took half an hour.
Yeah, I mean, Jason McCourty was blasted everybody, just like Pat McAfee did when the draft was in Nashville, for Christ's sakes, when the Colts were on the clock. But still nothing. But whatever. Hopefully, I don't even know what we were just talking about. Hopefully the Titans try to get something and possibly move up in the early 4th round. Darnell Washington, I don't know if there's an injury concern with Darnell Washington, but if you run 12 personnel, which Tim Kelly is famous for, I mean, you have Chig, you have Darnell Washington, and you have Burks, possibly. I mean, Jesus Christ. We don't even know if he's going to be on the field, possibly. I mean, Darnell Washington and Chig is a nightmare possibility for defenses. Yes. Yeah. Going forward. So I mean, yeah.
And now it's to the
Jordan Battle, the Bengals selected safety out of Alabama. So he's still available. Trade up into the 3rd round or the 4th round, Tennessee, and go get Darnell Washington. Jesus.
And if you're going to tell me that Will Levis is a value pick in the 2nd round, then what makes Darnell Washington not a value pick?
Exactly. If you're worried about that, the guy's 6'7", for Christ's sake. It's an extra lineman plus versatility with Chig.
I'll never forget the video of the combine where they showed Michael Mayer pushing the sled, and you know how much I love him. And then they showed Darnell Washington pushing the sled.
Man.
Darnell Washington made that sled look like 2 toothpicks. Michael Mayer looked like It looked like he was struggling to move it, Michael Mayer, and Darnell Washington made that fucking sled look like a bitch. But listen, I agree with you. I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves with next year, but I agree if the Bengals don't figure out a way to keep T. Higgins, which I think they will. I think they think if they could keep that core together for the next 4 or 5 years, because Jamar Chase is only the 3rd year of his deal. I think if they think they can keep that core together, that they'll win a Super Bowl. But to play devil's advocate, absolutely. If he's a free agent, you cut him a check for $100 million, 4 years, give him his $25 million a year. The deal that we should have given AJ Brown, give to T. Higgins, and then you're cooking with some grease. But that's neither here nor there at the moment. Personally, I think we're probably going to stick with Tannehill this year and let Will Levis, learn. I think it would be the best thing for him to do to mature a little bit. Yeah. And we can say what we want about Tannehill. Average quarterback, but the guy is probably a solid leader, solid locker room guy, maybe a good guy for Levis to learn behind for a year.
Listen, before you keep going, I'm gonna stop you again. Jen's probably hanging me from the ceiling right now. let's give Ryan Tannehill a shot under Tim Kelly. Okay, because let's not forget Ryan Tannehill was 11-5 and 12-5 or whatever it was with us under Arthur Smith and a not under Todd Downing, for Christ's sakes. And he is a good quarterback when he has protection. We just got Peter Skoronczyk, one of the best offensive linemen in the first round of the draft. You put him, insert him at left guard or left tackle. We got a line. I don't give a shit. Everybody talks about Aaron Brewer at center. He's fine with a supporting cast. If you have Skoronczyk and Burnskill right next to him, they're fine. With NPF and Dilliard, I'm okay with that line. The thing that bothers me is we still have not identified the wide receiver position.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they have a rabbit they want to pull out of their hat with
Traylon Burks.
With DeAndre Hopkins, I don't know.
It's not happening, Vin. It's not happening. They're gonna have to try to go after like fucking what's the guy Harry out of New England? Maybe
Harry,
yeah. They're not going after DeAndre Hopkins. There's
you have to think maybe we draft. I know before we got on, I was talking about A.T. Perry from Wake Forest. I'm a big Sam Hartman fan, and I know he loved him some A.T. Perry. But I mean, you're gonna have to draft somebody. So I don't know. I mean, even if you draft Darnell Washington, he's not a receiver. He's
not. He's not. But you know what? Rob Gronkowski and Aaron Hernandez, they did wonders. So both of those guys on either side can help this offense. I mean, that's how Vrabel. Maybe Vrabel wants to go the Patriot way, like he always has, and go with fucking Kyle Phillips if he gains 20 pounds and stays healthy, and you have Traylon Burks, for Christ's sakes. I mean, I miss AJ Brown. We all miss AJ Brown, for Christ's sakes. He was on Bleacher Report the other night, and the Mika Parsons was busting our balls that we fucking traded him, which is bullshit. Still, but that's beyond the point. I mean,
don't do it to yourself. It's water under the bridge.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't know, man. We'll see what happens in regards to the receiver position. We'll see where Darnell Washington lands. At this point, I feel like if you could get him, then take the flyer on him. I thought he was going to be our third round pick. He was not, but I was very satisfied with our third round pick, Tajae Spears. I think that is a phenomenal value pick. That is how you pick a running back. You find him in the mid rounds, a kid who was extremely productive in Tulane. He put up some gaudy numbers this last year. I don't know him off the top of my head.
You want numbers? Who's the stat guy in this podcast?
You're a stat guy.
I'm the stat guy in this podcast. He had 1,500 yards and 19 touchdowns last season, while having 256 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns. That is a compliment to Derrick Henry, unlike the bum that we had from Appalachian State. What's his name?
I forget. We tried a few times.
From the Bears.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. We tried a few times. We tried to sign Deion Lewis.
I don't even know the guy's name because he didn't even sniff the field.
Yeah.
Tajae Spears made a huge impact in his Senior Bowl this year.
No,
so
absolutely.
I loved it.
Absolutely. I think it's a great value pick, and I think he could be extremely productive, a phenomenal compliment to Henry. We tried to compliment Henry with a pass-catching running back for a long time with Deion Lewis, with the asshole from Appalachian State whose name I can't remember. But I was you and I talked about this kid from Tulane. I was on the phone with my brother the other day. He was talking about, what are the Titans going to do, after the first few rounds. And I mentioned, I didn't even remember his name. I said, it's a running back from Tulane. He put up some gaudy numbers there, and I think he's going to produce at the NFL level, and I think he can do it quickly. I also think that if he didn't have a bit of a knee concern, I believe they said he would have gone maybe in the second round. So, we got him in the middle of the third, end of the third. Phenomenal value. I'm looking forward to seeing what he could do for us right off the jump. But yeah, we'll see, man. The draft isn't over yet. And we got a question.
Well, besides the draft that isn't over yet, we have 5 picks to go. Pick is in with the Cleveland Browns right now, live on NFL Network. Darnell Washington, and I made a tweet earlier this afternoon. Don't be surprised that the Titans go cornerback in the second or third round. It didn't happen, but he's still available. Keely Ringo from Georgia is a huge physical freak at the cornerback position. And it would be a matchup nightmare for tight ends and running backs. Everybody says, oh, why would we need another cornerback? We have so many people in the secondary. Who are you trusting, Vin? Who are you trusting, Vincent, on the secondary besides Murphy Bunting? Bunting, whatever the hell it is.
Sean Murphy Bunting.
Yeah. You have Molden.
Fulton, injury concern. McCreary, second-year guy, undersized.
But besides McCreary, he's inside. If you put this guy on the outside and he goes, this guy plays in SEC. He is it. I don't understand why he's still available in the third round.
It's funny you bring him up because one of my closest friends, the kid who I was talking about last night, who is a big Herbert fan, he texted me and said there's a cornerback named Ringo who is still available, who he believes in as well. So we'll see where the chips fall when it comes down to it. But we have a question. So let's get this question coming in. Who is
this a live question we got?
The live question. Shout out Jeremy R86. Our first question on our live feed. Well,
there we go.
Yeah, shout out Jeremy. No free shout outs. Our first live question of Tannehill, Byron, Henry. Which one gets traded this offseason? Oh, that's a tough question. Well, Jeremy, I'm going to say none of them. I'm going to say we're going to keep Tannehill because we want a good mentor for Levis. I think the ship has sailed on trading Derrick Henry. And I just find it hard to believe that they would move on from Kevin Byard. I thought maybe if we were going to trade with Arizona that he could be a part of that deal potentially, where we let go of Byard and it was part of a deal to move up to get the third pick and we were going to get Hopkins. But he's the mayor of Nashville. The best ability is availability, and he hasn't missed a game in, 6 or 7 years. He is a leader in the community. He's a leader in the locker room. And unless the price is right and you're going to get something worthwhile, an impact player or a high draft pick, I just don't see any of those players getting moved. I really don't. I think Tannehill knows what his role is going to be. It's going to be that he's a bridge quarterback for this year. I cannot see them trading Derrick Henry. They would have done it before the draft to maybe pick up some more draft capital. But right now, I can't see any of those three players getting traded. Gun to my head, if I had to say which one would get traded, I would probably still say Byard because he carries such a big number and they asked him to restructure. And who knows how that'll eventually come to an end. But I don't think it's going to happen. If one of them were to get traded, though, I think it'd be Byard.
Yeah, I mean, just to reiterate what you were saying, we're going 2 more picks with the Raiders on the clock right now, 2 more picks going into the fourth round. I don't see any of these guys, Tannehill, Byard, or Henry, getting traded this year. If they wanted to trade them, I think they would have traded them in the first or second round to move back into the first or move back into the second. To make a pick, to get a wide receiver, to get anybody, I don't know. So I'm going to have to agree with you on that, Vin. I don't see anybody of those 3 guys, no gun to my head, being traded this year. So they're sticking with it. They're going to compete to try to win the division this year and see how far they go into the playoffs.
We have another question, too. Let's throw it out there, Sammy. Yeah. What are we going to do at wide receiver? Captain Trips. Well, let's get your height and weight and your 40 time, and maybe we could throw some ads on you and you could try out for receiver because we have no idea. You would think we would have drafted one by now. We thought maybe in the first round we would have went Smith and Jigba. We thought maybe in the second round we could have went Mingo. We thought maybe in the third round we could have went with someone other than Tajae Spears, who I am happy with, but in our first 3 rounds we failed to take a receiver. Not failed to take a receiver. We declined to take a receiver. So who knows what this team is thinking at the receiver position. You would have to imagine, though, between the 4th and 7th round, you have to take somebody. You have to. I don't know. Unless they have something in mind that they're going to trade for a veteran I don't know. It's hard to even say at this point. Your guess is as good as ours, but I don't know how you feel about it, Jarett. I think we touched on it a little bit earlier, but at the receiver position, I just don't know what they're doing right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to bring up stuff on the big board right now on my phone, but I can't get it in time. But we did talk about A.T. Perry from Wake Forest would be the next probably wide receiver on the board, which is just give me the garbage can right now. I mean, I am drinking Jack Daniels. Give me the garbage can right now. I'm just gonna throw up because I mean we could have made the move for Jalen Hyatt. We could have made the move for Cedric Tillman. We could have made the move. Hell, at 33 for Jonathan Mingo. Yeah. I mean, I don't know what they're doing at wide receiver right now, and it's really piss poor. They have to have a plan. Before we were talking to AC before we got on this podcast, they have to have a plan at wide receiver. It's not DeAndre Hopkins. It has to be somewhere else. Is it N'Keal Harry from New England? Are they going to trade for him? I don't know. Is somebody going to get cut in OTAs and in training camp, and they're going to bring him onto the roster, and he's going to be the savior? Not a savior, but just a key piece to this offense. I don't know. But the one person that's available still on this board, I will pound this table until they draft him because Tim Kelly is a 12 personnel type of player that thrived with Deshaun Watson, is Darnell Washington. If you pair Chig Okonkwo with Darnell Washington, for Christ's sakes, on the same field, that'll be lethal. You have a 6'7" target and a tight end that can run any fucking route. You do it.
Go off.
Plain and simple. You do it. Why is it taking so long? Is it an injury concern? I don't know. But we have 2 more questions from the fans. Vinny, run it.
Send them out, Sammy. Come on. Does this mean we make a trade for D-Hop?
No.
Hot doobie. I love your picture. I can see you probably smoked a doobie. That's why your name is Hot Doobie. But I would love to trade for DeAndre Hopkins, but I just don't see it happening.
It would have happened already. It would have happened.
Feel like one of our stud players, whether it have been Bayard or
besides
Henry.
That, stop for 1 second, Vin, then you can go. It would have happened in the second round when we traded up for Will Levis because we traded away our 3rd round draft pick, right, Vin? Next year.
Next year.
So we would have took on that contract and instead of giving away that 3rd round draft pick next year, we would have took that DeAndre Hopkins contract on and just swapped and gave another pick away. So I'm going to say no. So Vin, go off.
I think the ship has sailed. I think if we were going to trade for someone like DeAndre Hopkins, we would have needed more draft capital at this point and a player. And I think one of those players would have been Henry or Bayard. And at this point, we're walking into the 4th round of the draft, and it seems like those 2 players aren't going anywhere. So I feel like if you're going to make a move for Hopkins, unless it's going to be picks next year, I don't see them making a move for Hopkins at this point. I would love it. I'd be all for it. I just don't see it happening.
Nah, it would have been already.
Next question. Do you think it's a bad sign that Levy's dropped so much? Yeah, you can't ignore the fact that he dropped. I mean, I brought it up earlier. There was concerns about his maturity. There were concerns about him not showing up to the Senior Bowl. I know we had John Vogel on, draft analyst, very, very intelligent kid when it comes to the draft and the X's and O's of the game. Shout out John Vogel. No free shout out.
Yeah, exactly.
But he had said that he did not show up to the Senior Bowl, which to me shows a lack of maturity. I mean, if you don't want to play because you're worried about injury, fine. I understand that. It's your financial future and your family's financial future at risk. I get that. But show your face, take the interviews, be honest, and be yourself. Because guess what? At the end of the day, these fucking GMs and these scouts, they're not stupid. You could try to bullshit them, but if they see that you're not being yourself, they can kind of see that. So I feel like they felt that this kid maybe thought he was too cool for school and didn't need to go to the Senior Bowl and answer questions. And he might have thought, well, if I'm not going to play, well, what's the point? Well, dude, show your face, show your personality, show them what you're about. there's concerns about his, not to say his character, but his maturity level. And I think that it is a little bit concerning that, he was projected to go as high as number 2 this week in the middle of the week. Then he falls all the way out of the first round, and nobody even traded back into the first round to try and get him. So am I going to?
There was teams that tried. There was teams that tried, but that failed.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, on paper,
I'm gonna throw shade at my brother right now because he may be listening right now. So, F you, Jess. I heard there was rumors of him, the Raiders and the Falcons and the Rams trying to get back into the first round at 27 to try to get Will Levis. Thank God you didn't. I had my balls busted so many times that I didn't even look at my phone that Will Levis got drafted by the Tennessee Titans. And I got to listen to my brother, who's a Raiders fan, that got drafted by Michael Mayer, who you wanted.
I love that kid, man.
My wife and all my friends, John Michael Smith, Jalen Hyatt, and John Michael Smith, who I've pounded the table, John Michael Smith, on this podcast for the past couple of weeks in the second round for get him. Okay, so that's 2 guys, actually 3 guys that I have to listen to the shit that we get. We didn't get shit. Tajae Spears is great. Peter Skoronczyk is great. Will Levis, we have no idea. Yeah. He is an NFL comp of Josh Allen. Will he be him?
We'll see.
We don't know. We better hope that after Ryan Tannehill's contract is over, that he is better.
Ready to go. And listen, I think maybe, we talk about the maturity issues, and I'm not going to hang my hat on it and hold it against this kid and say, that's why he fell all the way to the first round. I think there's a few different reasons why. But we can't ignore the fact that there was rumors that he lacked a little bit of maturity. He didn't show up to the Senior Bowl. But maybe someone like Vrabel, who is a man's man, who plays no fucking games, feels like he talked to Carthon and said, listen, I will whip this fucking kid into shape. Don't worry about it. Got all the intangibles. He's 6'4", 220, 230, cannon of an arm. If maturity right now is his biggest problem, then let that motherfucker try and step to me and see what happens. And I think if anybody can whip him into shape, it's Vrabel. And guess what? We better hope if anyone can whip him into shape, it's Vrabel, because if this fails, we might have to blow the whole fucking thing up because Vrabel's hanging his hat on this guy. If this kid doesn't work out, that's the second quarterback in 2 years we drafted within the first 3 rounds that won't have worked out. We shall see.
Nope. Malik Willis was not Vrabel's guy.
Was.
Let's get that straight, okay? And we have Pat O'Hare that transferred over into roles this year as an offensive specialist, I believe, right? Do you know that? I believe so. So he brought in a new quarterback coach in Charles London. This project in Will Levis and possibly Malik Willis, we don't even know if he's going to be still even on the roster. If they're going to trade him, if they're going to keep him as a third string, we don't know. If he's going to be a practice squad, I don't know. Charles London is supposed to be a quarterback guru. He better, like Chris Jericho says, develop this quarterback in Will Levis to be better than Josh Allen. Because if we traded up into the second round to get this guy, who's supposed to be a first-round draft pick, not going to go outside the top 5, they better hit with this, okay? Because I'm sick and tired of waiting, just like everybody else is. Like Sal is sick and tired of waiting for their franchise quarterback. I am sick and tired of waiting for a franchise quarterback. Will Levis has to be a hit. I may not be it, and you may not be it on tonight's podcast, but going forward, possibly if this kid shows us something going into the preseason and even next season, God forbid he starts and we cut him, Tannehill, in June 1st, and he starts and he shows us something, he has to hit. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. I agree with you. This is Vrabel's decision. This is all on Charles London. This is Rand Carthon's first quarterback taken. He has to hit in this draft.
And if nothing else, for all you Sopranos fans out there, we can get some great mayonnaise jokes out of this fucking Will Levis pick. So I don't think we have any more questions. We went off. We did our thing for 35 minutes now. Time flies when you're boozing and you're having
For
fun.
real. This turned into 20 minutes to 35. Are
we
we getting a
wish-
fucking wide receiver, Vin? Are we getting one?
We wished our boy Salvatore was on here to talk his shit about his boyfriend, Will Levis. He's probably cleaning off Will Levis's mayonnaise off of his face right now.
That just shakes right now.
But no, it was a lot of fun chopping it up. We'll be back on probably Sunday night when the draft's over to recap everything. And if you don't have anything else to say, no?
Me?
Yeah.
Get a wide receiver or trade up for Darnell Washington, for Christ's sakes. So we can talk about it tomorrow.
Ran, you heard the man. Go get us a receiver. Go get us Darnell Washington, because we know the opinion of a couple greasers from South Jersey means the world to you. Sammy, send me out.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Talking Titans on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.